Parasite Eve is a franchise that's been around for a long time. The first game came out in 1998. It got popular due to its inclusion of both horror and action RPG elements. The game is made by SquareEnix, and ultimately it was put behind the scenes, got under the shadows because of Final Fantasy VII. But it still retained a popularity within the hearts of a lot of fans. It's got kind of a cult following. The third game is not called Parasite Eve 3, it's called Third Birthday. We gotta talk about that in today's review. So, the Third Birthday is an action RPG mixed with a third-person shooter. Unlike the first and the second game from way back, it's got the least bit RPG elements. You still are leveling up and you still get experience points to some extent, but for the most part it feels a lot more like a third-person shooter. The gameplay of Parasite Eve is really good. It's very fast-paced, it's very addictive, it's action-packed. It's good for a portable system when you're on the go and you want to play quickly, because it's got a lot of fast-paced action, and a lot of the excitement is, I guess, compartmentalized, so that you're able to pick up and play during different segments, whether you're maybe on the bus, waiting at the bus stop, or at the DMV or whatever. One of the most funnest things about Third Birthday, I must say, is the overdrive system, which is just a fancy way of saying you switch bodies between people. And when I first was playing it kind of sounded lame when you're switching bodies out of the step, but it's actually pretty fun. It keeps the action really fast paced because you're kind of switching in between different perspectives. And then let's say you're out of ammo or you need a certain weapon, you can jump into other NPC players and then you'll have more ammo, or you have a good high vantage point to do some sniping or something like that. And so it's a strategic element. It has a tactical element to the game, which is pretty cool. The customization mode in Parasite Eve is kind of weird and complicated, I would say. It's not too complicated, it's kind of hard to figure out. It's supposed to symbolize or represent like DNA or mitochondria, some sort of molecular structure type of thing, viral situation. So you got different pieces basically, and you're supposed to fit them together in areas that fit, and then you match them up with certain attributes and they upgrade your different parts of your abilities. If you do it right, it's good, but sometimes you can mess up and then bad things will happen. It's kind of hard to figure out, I found. It's not very straightforward, but that's customization, and a lot of games do it nowadays. I think maybe they just threw it in just for the sake of throwing it in. Customization is a feature we must have. A lot of people say that the Third Birthday has some bad controls, and that's true. I mean, controls are kind of hard, but hey, it's a PSP, and kind of the system in itself has bad controls. So, what can you say? The graphics of Parasite Eve are pretty good. It's a lot of high-end production value. You got some nice 3D animation, good 3D models, good monster design. You got your typical horror effects that you see in the typical Parasite Eve franchise, as well as in a lot of horror games where there's a lot of blood and gore and gross out, disgusting things. They integrate all those effects pretty well, and they look pretty cool. The music is also, although it can be maybe a little generic at times, it is very fast-paced, and it keeps you kind of hyped and into the action that they're trying to get you into. So I thought the music was pretty good. What I didn't like is the storyline, and that's pretty much the major problem with the Third Birthday. And it's kind of a problem with most SquareEnix games nowadays. They focus a lot on making the gameplay cool, but then they kind of skimp on the storyline. Really, what it goes down to is that when you compare it to the first and second game, the storyline doesn't really hold a candle for the Third Birthday. You have Aya, who, in the first game and the second game was really a badass. She was hardcore. She had that die-hard type of mentality. You couldn't mess with her, right? Now she's like a little cowering, sissy, coward, scared, little, screaming all over the place, damsel in distress. And she uses a gun and all that stuff, but she still is kind of like out of character. And even if you haven't played the original games, it's kind of stereotypical, and you kind of see that objectification of just a female in distress. It just it's sad, really. On top of that, you got the whoring out of her, where she's wearing all these scantily clad clothes. And you can unlock certain clothes that are really scantily clad, and you're kind of just confused. From a girl's perspective, you could, playing the game, maybe you could understandably see why that's a problem. And I'm a guy, and I'm still like, okay, that's kind of, just in the end, it's kind of stupid. And then you also have the other characters in the game, which some of them are actually from the original 2 games, but the storylines are all just jacked up. And then you got all these new characters that are just kind of cliche and just archetypical. It's just a bad story overall. It's too bad. So the good parts about the third birthday is that it's got some really fast paced and addictive gameplay. It has some really good music that kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's very action, and it's got some really high-end graphics. The bad parts about the game is that basically the storyline is very stereotypical and just lame. And you also have the objectification and whoring out of the main character, who used to be cool, but I don't know what the heck happened, why they butchered her. I'm going to have to give Parasite Eve 7.5 out of 10.